Okay, so we're here for a quick recap and thoughts from Asher Guedalia, who's been stepping up and speaking out very articulately as someone who has opinions that are not what you might read in the mainstream media from bereaved families or families of hostages. Of course, his brother, the hero, Yosef Guedalia, Hashem Yikam Damo, fell on October 7th, 2023 in Kfar Aza. He's a member of Duvdevan. Asher, as we were about to come on air here for the recording, I was telling you I was very heated because Yoav Gallant went to Hostage Square and says, I hope that this time the national interest will override the political interest, hinting at previous claims that Prime Minister Netanyahu scuttled previous opportunities to secure a deal. Asked about the opposition of Bezalel Smotrich and Ben Gvir, he says he's embarrassed by the two far-right ministers, and he says their conduct is, quote-unquote, not Jewish, not Zionist, and not humane. So this is coming from the Minister of Defense who was fundraising for college scholarships in August of 2023 when there were drones on the border of Gaza that didn't work. And soldiers had to fundraise tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to get basic equipment. So this guy wouldn't know a decent value if it hit him in the face. It really gets me going when he says this because and again, you can have a discussion on the merits about the hostage deal and whether it's a good thing or it's going to have consequences down the road that are bad. But this kind of conduct where you say that someone's not Jewish, not Zionist, not humane is really not helpful.
Right.
It's incredibly offensive. So how do you respond to the charge that or first of all, let's take a step back. What is your thought on the deal?
So, what I think about the deal is that currently, as it seems, as it's written out, it's a bad deal. Now, the reason is because the deal says that at the end, we let them rebuild Gaza, we leave completely. Hamas is going to rebuild himself, and then we're just going to be in the same place in 5, 10 years. Now, this is all assuming that what's been posted and what's been said on the news is correct, and that actually this deal is going to go through the whole way. I don't think that's true. Personally, I don't think this deal will go through the whole way. I think even if it starts, it's definitely not going to in my opinion, not going to finish the way it's put out now because the simple fact that Netanyahu himself said a few months ago that there's three things he's not willing to, his red line. So one of them was not to release thousands of terrorists. The other one was not to draw the IDF out of Gaza, not to retreat, and not to stop the war before the reason that we went out to the war is met, which is to replace Hamas in Gaza. Now, I look at the situation now and a year ago when he said it, and our situation now is only better. Hezbollah is not up north drawing our attention. Our threats are less, and Biden is out, so which was a huge issue for us. So I just wouldn't see any reason other than Trump telling him, if you don't do this and this now, then I don't know, consequences. But just seeing the way Trump understands the Middle East, I just have zero percent worry about him being worse than Biden, just from how he manages the Middle East and how he understands it, which is why, in my opinion, it's either they're talking about some Iranian attack they're going to do. Again, I don't know anything more than you do. I'm just speculating. I think it might have to do with an Iranian attack on the nuclear sites. It might have to do with starting off the deal, stopping it in the middle in order to make better terms. But I think Trump really wants to get into the White House a day after a deal starts happening for everyone to see how Trump is the savior, how Biden couldn't get a deal off his whole time and just Trump came and everything starts moving. So I think there is a big interest in the White House and for Netanyahu for something to start moving. I definitely don't think it's going to end this way. And again, getting back to your question, if really I had to say now, okay, you're getting these hostages and so, and you're stopping the war, you're leaving Gaza, Hamas rebuilds, then you just admit that you lost. And I think for the IDF to lose to Hamas after October 7th, it's going to be worse than Israel withdrawing from Lebanon in 2000 when Nasrallah had that speech of the spider web that until this day is the reason Hezbollah just believe that they can destroy us and the entire terrorist world. Like people are just so narrow-minded, and as you were saying before, what Gallant is saying is just upsetting. It's upsetting because like you expect more intelligence from people like this. So there's two options. Either he's just not.
No, you don't. No, there's no more intelligence like this. They've completely lost the pulse on it. You might say that it's not intelligence. It's the fact that you want to have honest debate on the issue, and it's not possible because they
It's not
keep using
possible.
these slurs.
And you'd think, okay, imagine we didn't have the Shalit deal before. Imagine we didn't have the withdrawal from Gaza in 2005. Like, imagine it was really a clean page with Hamas, and we put this deal, and then people argued, and some people would say, like, look, Hamas can be trusted or whatever, and some people would argue back. We're talking after the Shalit deal, where the same people said, we're going to be able to secure the border, we're going to be able to get the terrorists after. We gave them 1,000 terror, including Sinwar, for one soldier. I think most sane people understand that that was a catastrophic mistake. I think that there's nothing more clear than that. And then to get to this kind of deal and not even think about it and say like, okay, there's many opinions. They may be right, but I think it's the time to release the hostages, or I think the pros outweigh the cons. To not be able to have a normal conversation about it, it's just absurd and upsetting. And I thought to myself today because I've been getting a little bit of reactions, posting on whatever social media, and some people will react in a way of like, oh, you don't have a soul, you don't have compassion, you're just like as evil as sin, whatever stuff like that. It doesn't. It
Someone said
doesn't.
that to you?
Yeah, on Facebook, obviously someone that doesn't know me, obviously someone with many issues and or whatever, very differently politically thinking. But again, you have to remember what the media is feeding people for years. It's all about Netanyahu that cares more about his chair than about the hostages, and they're letting the hostage. And like you said, the person you interviewed that told you that Netanyahu killed the hostages, these are the people we're dealing with, and we have to talk about the reality too. And again, I don't get upset at that, just like I don't get upset at a 3-year-old calling me names because I didn't give him a candy. Like when you want to have a rational conversation where it's clear that both of us care about Israel, about the people, whether they're hostages, whether they're soldiers that have been fighting and are being killed. Then you want to have that conversation. The minute someone steps so far out of it and goes to say like this is not Jewish, these people are whatever, it just lowers the level of the conversation to the point of like, okay, go say what you want to get whatever votes you want. Do you? And I wish you the best. But it doesn't upset me because again, you're talking to people with limited capability. It's just not worth the
Yeah,
time.
I'm upset because there's rules of the game, and the rules that have been set out are that there's particular care toward the opinions and the feelings of bereaved families, hostage families, and of doing everything we can to defend the soldiers and to defend the state of Israel and the Jewish people worldwide. And you can have a debate about how that goes on, but when the conduct is so over the top, I'm viscerally upset because if God forbid someone would say to a more progressive hostage family that you're not Jewish, you're not Zionist, and you're not humane, you, you would be hung in the street, as you
Yeah,
probably should be, because it's not
if
how
I
you
remember
talk.
correctly, like this is I think the same exact thing happened around half a year ago when again there was hostage deal talks, and I think Gallant again said more or less the same things. I remember thinking of Tzvika Mor, the father of Eitan, who is hostage in Gaza, and Tzvika is part of Forum HaTikva, and they're against the deal because they don't believe that they're going to get their son back this way, and they believe that it's dangerous to the state of Israel. It's clear danger, and many people they don't want many hundreds of people getting slaughtered like we did on October 7th because of a bad deal. And when you have a father like that and he gets zero respect, zero, like he's being told that he's not Jewish, that he's not, or the people that he votes for or meets with, because he's going out, he's meeting with Smotrich, he's meeting with Ben Gvir, he's telling him, look, like this is our kid there and we think this is a bad deal. Do something about it. Like you at least can understand us And you are the more, I guess, the people that we voted for in some scenarios. Some of these parents are more associated with those people. So that's what they're expecting from the people they elected. And then to say that those people that have been elected to do something that they want, that the families of some of the hostages that voted for them want, is not Jewish, not Zion. It's completely disconnected. I don't know. I don't know what his
And
motives are
let's
to say
and
such
let's
a
and
thing.
let's just say this, right? Let's say this. There, when it comes to Jewish, Zionist, humane, let's give a real scenario. There are a number of hostages that are dead, and we're not positive that Hamas even knows where they are. So is it Jewish, Zionist, and humane to send thousands of troops into an area that might have the body and risk their lives? That's a really intense question. And I feel terrible for the parents, but you can come out on different opinion and still be within the tent of what's an acceptable answer. But is that
Yeah.
really what our politics are?
So
And
I'll
again,
tell you.
yeah, what is your take on that?
So about bodies of hostages and risking soldiers' lives, my take is I think we cannot end this war until we get every single body back. And if we have to flip every single tile in Gaza in order to find these bodies, and if it's going to take us 10 or 20 years, we're going to do it. And if we need to clear out entire Gaza, we need to give these parents the answers, where their kids are, what happened to them. You're not going to let a parent live their whole life where their kid might have been sold to Africa to be a slave. Like, you can't let people even think. You need to give answers. You need to bring back the bodies. That's what the IDF needs to do. And we need to flip the entire Gaza over until we can bring back every single one of the hostages. That's my take. And of course, it risks soldiers' lives, but the soldiers' job is to go fight and win. And this is part of it. This is part of victory. It's not about bringing a body to bury. It's about winning this war and making sure that the enemy understands what happens when they do what they did. That's about that. Now, if we're going to talk about what's Jewish, humane, and Zionist, then I can tell you what's definitely not Jewish, humane, and Zionist. It's not Jewish to risk soldiers' lives in order to um, care for enemy population. That's not Jewish. And if you're putting soldiers at risk just to maybe save the life of a civilian that's somewhere where he should have evacuated from, or if you're sending soldiers in like Hilzi's tactics of assaults and leaving and letting them come back just because you don't want to do ethnic cleansing or all these beautiful words that have no Jewish value in them, then that's definitely the opposite of Jewish. And you know what the opposite of Zionist is? I just read yesterday, like the letter of one of the generals before we fought in 57 and reconquered Gaza in 56 or 57 it was. And what they're talking about is Gaza is part of Israel, and let's go and end this terrorist regime and resettle Gaza. That's what's Zionist. Let's remember what Zionist means. It means settling Israel with Jews and making Gaza Jewish again. That's Zionism. And when you hear people now talking about anything but not to settle, like, do you realize that Beit Hanun is 1 kilometer from Sderot, and the only reason it's not already behind in our border and completely cleared is because people don't want to resettle Gaza because they don't want to be conquering land or ethnically cleansing or whatever. And in the name of that, we have 15 dead soldiers this week in Beit Hanun after we supposedly cleared it already. So that's what anti-Zionist looks like. And there's nothing Jewish in making a deal with terrorism that results in October 7th like attacks. There's no Jewish history in that. There's no Jewish law in that. There's actually Jewish law against making hostage deals for a higher price than what you can pay. So the people calling this Jewish know very little about Judaism, not Jewish, know very little about Judaism, and yeah,
And again,
it
I just want to
wasn't
say,
bad. It was
and I,
funny, really.
and it's important also to give the context. Thank God, heroic soldiers on October 7th were able to ensure that your family was able to bring Yosef's body back for proper burial. I've spoken to those soldiers. They are unbelievable people. They risk their lives. They're amazing, amazing people. You have people like Amir Tahar that Hamas cut his head off, brought it, and tried to sell it online. And this is they have a marketplace that they would think to sell it in Gaza. And Blinken just said that there are as many fighters now. Hamas has recruited enough fighters to replace the ones that have been killed. So what does that say about the society? What are we agreeing with? And how is it even possible that we have the language where it's just so unanimous that everybody says, if you're not with us, you're anti-Jewish? Really, really crazy. I it's it's unfortunate that that's how
Yes,
people
it's
talk
definitely
about these things.
definitely unfortunate.
What
It's not surprising though, but it's unfortunate.
and again, I think unfortunately you have to say it, but I don't think there'll be anyone happier. We will be thrilled. Everyone will be thrilled for all of these hostages to be home with their families, and it's not about it's not you're not anti the hostages coming home. We're just saying that perhaps there's a position that is the hostages need to come home, and the IDF needs to continue to annihilate Hamas and
Yeah,
not pull off.
the point is, look, deep inside me, I want this deal to go through because I just want to see the faces of the hostages. I want to see this story end, and I want to believe and be optimistic that there's some master plan behind the scenes of the minute we get back our hostages, we do some crazy act and we also win the war. Like that's the best scenario, and that'd make me a super. So behind like deep inside, I kind of want to see. Okay, let's start seeing hostages. It's exciting. I want it to happen. But at the same time, I know that I don't have the privilege of just sitting aside and letting the same people who made the mistakes that caused my brother to be killed to continue making the same exact mistakes in the same exact way. So I feel like it's just the least I could do to put out a voice that to me seems sane and to question and to try to understand what the plan is. And again, we can't know everything, but with whatever information we know, trying to make whatever change or influence that we can.
And Osher, I thank you so much for taking the time here. I just want again for those watching, the reason why I asked Osher and I really wanted to get his take now and have this conversation is because there is room to have a discussion about what's going on without labeling people essentially Jews for J and against Israel and some sort of extremism that is outside of the normal conversation. The conversation is very real, and it's an appropriate thing to have among, when this is going on. And it's important that people maintain, keep their vigilance and understand the contours of what may or may not pass. Again, we don't know all of the specific details, but I already wanted to talk to you, and then when Gallant claimed that anyone who doesn't agree with him essentially is not Jewish, it really set me off. And I appreciate you taking the time here because I know that people that are watching are now have a much better insight into how things are being done. And when I saw the Heroes Forum, by the way, and I see these pictures, and people need to understand that there are families that lost their loved one that feel so deeply connected to the success of the state of Israel in completely destroying Hamas, the terrorist enemy. And when they see that they might live to fight another day, it's deeply painful, and it is pulling the scab on the wound of their fallen loved one. And it's something that has to be taken seriously, and it has to be discussed, and has to be done with sensitivity, not with throwing firebombs on people and saying that you're too stupid to understand, which is essentially what they're doing. And I don't think there's a better advocate for a sane, reasonable position to the mainstream than Osher. So Osher, I do appreciate you coming on, and God willing, we'll be able to connect again, and we'll see what happens and shakes out in the next few hours and days. And I do hope that all the hostages return home very soon. I'm going to Vegas with that projection.